In January of 2022, Pokemon content creator A-Drive began developing his own card game called Elestrals. And it's being supported on Kickstarter for a limited time, so be sure to check out the link in the description so you don't miss out. What's going on, everyone? My name is Steven, I'm your True Champion, and in today's video, we're going to talk about how to play the brand new card game, Elestrals. As always, I plan on going over the basic mechanics as well as the overall flow of play. Hopefully, this video will give you everything you need to enter the magical world of Elestrals and take the power of the gods for yourself. If y'all are excited, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below what makes you most excited to learn about the Elestrals card game. For me, it's the stellar rares for this game. They are absolutely gorgeous, and I need to know how to use them correctly in order to win. Oh, and you know what? I'm gonna try to teach y'all this game in under 10 minutes. Let's go. Everything in Elestrals revolves around these powerful spirit cards, and the goal of each player is to expend your opponent of spirits so they lose the power of the gods and are disconnected from the world of Elestria. A really unique feature of Elestrals is that these powerful spirit cards are not only your life source for the game, they are also your main resource for playing cards onto the board. All cards have spirit costs, which can be found in the center of the card. If you wish to play or cast a certain card of a certain type, you must cast it with the appropriate elemental type as well as number of spirits. Elestrals with mismatched spirits can still be played, they just have no effect. As of right now, there are only 5 types of spirits and 6 types of spirit costs. The rainbow type of cost means any spirit can be used to satisfy it. An important thing to mention here is that if you cast a card and it has its only spirit removed while in play, it is now disenchanted, it gets destroyed, and is sent to the underworld. The moral of the story is, spirits are important, mastering how you use them means mastering the game. The game of Elestrals is played with a 40 card main deck and a 20 card spirit deck. As long as you have no more or no less than 20 cards in your spirit deck, you can have any combination of the 5 spirit types as you wish. Your main deck, however, can only have 3 copies maximum of any uniquely named card. Other than that, there are really no restrictions in terms of what elemental types you may have in your deck. The only real restriction comes from actually playing the cards. As long as you have the right spirits in your spirit deck, you are fine. A little tip I recommend here is when you're building an Elestrals deck, start with the actual main deck first. Get all the cards you want to have work together, and then figure out your spirit deck afterwards, so that way you know you have enough spirits for each of the important cards in your deck. Alongside these restrictions, your main deck is made up of 2 types of cards: Elestrals and runes. Elestrals are your creatures that you will use to protect your board and attack your opponent. These cards all have a spirit cost in the center of the card, which denotes both how many and what type of spirit they need in order to be played. For example, this Sluggle here needs 1 water spirit to be properly cast. On either side of that spirit cost, every Elestral has an attack and defense stat, which is used for battle with other Elestrals. Rune cards are interesting, as there are 5 different types, and each one all use spirits differently and have various types of effects. Invoked runes, for example, are one-use cards. You simply pay the cost, use the effect, and then send them to the underworld. If you're ever curious on how to properly use or resolve effect, I recommend reading the cards. That'll usually tell you everything you need to know. Artifact runes are a little different, as they stay in play once they're cast, and they give buffs / maybe extra effects to Elestrals that are already in play. Think of them like equipment or weapons that your Elestrals will wield to make them more powerful. Stadium runes are cards which create new fields of battle that affect the entire board state, both yours and your opponent's. As of right now, there can only be 1 stadium rune in play at one time. If a new one comes into play for either you or your opponent, the old one must be sent to the underworld. Counter runes, my personal favorite, are sort of like little surprises that you place face down in your rune slot. You wait a full turn before activating them, but once you wait that full turn, they can be triggered at any time. If you're familiar at all with Yu-Gi-Oh, they're basically trap cards. You use them to interrupt your opponent's plays and make it harder for them to win the game. And finally, we have Divine Runes. These are runes that come into play and have reusable effects each turn. And what's really cool about them is they also allow you to add on extra spirits to them when they come into play, and oftentimes these extra spirits can be used for other effects / can just build your overall resources. A really good type of effect in Elestrals that uses this type of mechanic is called Nexus, where you can move around different spirits to other cards, make them more powerful, or even trigger other effects. Again, remember, no matter what type of card is in play, Rune or Elestral, if it has no spirits attached, it gets disenchanted and sent to the underworld. Each game of Elestrals begins with both players shuffling their deck and placing their main and spirit decks in their respective areas. After deciding who goes first via a dice roll, you draw your opening hand of 5 cards. If you don't like your hand, you may expend 2 spirits from your spirit deck to shuffle up and redraw a new hand of 5 cards. With that done, you are ready to begin. There are 4 phases of Elestrals: the draw phase, the main phase, the battle phase, and the end phase. The draw phase is pretty simple. After the very first turn of the game, during this phase, you draw an extra card from your main deck and place it into your hand. There is currently no hand size limit in Elestrals, but if you run out of cards in your deck, you lose via deck out. So definitely be careful with how much nectar from the gods you drink. It might not be that good for you. Once the draw phase has ended, you enter the main phase. The main phase, as the name suggests, is where the bulk of your actions will take place, and you can do any of these 3 things in any order you want. You can set or cast runes, with really no limit to how many, so long as you have open rune slots in your rune row. You can change the battle position of any Elestral in play once per turn, deciding whether they should be in attack mode or defense mode. And finally, you can spend a spirit. Doing so will allow you to perform one of the following actions. You can normal cast an Elestral into play, you can normal ascend an Elestral into play, you can enchant an already existing Elestral, or you can draw a card. Normal casting is the act of paying the spirit cost of an Elestral and then placing it into play. Because you are limited to only spending 1 spirit per turn, you can only cast 1 cost Elestrals this way. If you wish to play higher costed Elestrals, you must ascend them or use some type of effect. Ascension is when you take an existing Elestral and turn it into a different one by placing another spirit from your spirit deck underneath it and then placing the new Elestral on top, getting rid of the old one. When you first ascend or cast an Elestral, you decide what position it is in, attack or defense. Once you place it into play, its position cannot be changed until the following turn. Elestrals may attack the turn they are casted and or ascended, and each player can only have 4 Elestrals in play at any one time. Enchanting is when you take another spirit from your spirit deck and place it underneath an already in play Elestral. Like I said earlier, this can unlock new effects / increase the potential damage output of an Elestral. And if absolutely none of these options are available to you in your hand, you can always spend your spirit for turn and draw a card. With that said, that is it for the main phase. Let's go ahead and move on to the battle phase. As the name suggests, this is where the battles of the game will take place and where spirit damage can be dealt to your opponent. In Elestrals, only attack position Elestrals can attack, and the only targets for attacks are your opponent directly or the opposing Elestrals if they have any in play. Each Elestral you have in play can attack once per turn in any order you like, with each attack happening 1 at a time. When you declare an attack on an opposing Elestral, a battle will take place. And when a battle occurs, depending on what position each Elestral is in, you compare different stats to decide the winner. If 2 attack position Elestrals are battling, you compare their attack points. If the attacker's power is higher, they win and the defending Elestral gets destroyed. If it's a tie, they both lose and get destroyed. And if the attacker's attack points are lower than the defender's attack points, nothing happens. If you're attacking a defense position Elestral, you compare your attack points to their defense points. Higher attack again means you win and the defending Elestral gets destroyed. If it's a tie or your attack points are lower than their defense points, nothing happens. If an attack position Elestral was destroyed, then comes damage calculation, where you compare the number of spirits each Elestral has, and the difference is dealt to the loser as spirit damage. Let's take my 3 spirit Majesty here versus a 1 spirit Sorlet. Majesty has more attack points, wins, and now I will deal 2 spirits of damage to my opponent. If your opponent has no Elestrals in play, you can attack them with any Elestral you have, and they take the full amount of spirits as damage. Again, my 3 Spirit Majesty deals 3 spirit damage with a direct attack. If you are done attacking and dealing damage to your opponent, you exit the battle phase and enter the end phase, where you pass it back to your opponent, and they now repeat this same cycle of phases. You go back and forth until there's a winner. The game of Elestrals ends when one player runs out of spirits in their spirit deck and has to concede because they cannot play any more cards. That should give you everything you need to start playing the game, and now is a perfect time to get into it. There's an official Kickstarter that runs until December 4th. You can check it out, support, and get your hands on some Founders Edition versions of cards. I also recommend you check out the official website for the game, where you can find the official rulebook as well as the current card list, so you can supplement everything you learned here today with even more Elestrals goodness. And yeah, with that said, I've been your True Champion Steven. That's it for Elestrals. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Peace.